do think who's the guy you said before talking about how he just took power because he wanted to take power.
Oh,
That was
Sola.
Sola. You could say that's Palpatine too, because the whole thing was like he just really just did it as like a game. Like they
Hmm.
could have very easily taken. It's like a long convoluted plot to take over the Jedi Order.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, me and Nick were actually talking about. We talked about it for about 3 hours a couple weeks ago about how I think the Jedi Order was the biggest problem in that civilization. We were talking about if you watch the movies, right, they have zero respect for like the governing bodies of other civilizations. As soon as Obi-Wan gets to Geonosis, he immediately kills like two government officials. When you play, if you played a Republic Commando on the PS2,
I remember the game.
you're like a part of like a paramilitary death squad whose job is to go in and like assassinate high-ranking Geonosians. You know, this is not an underdog story here. You're playing as like the CIA or the Mossad going in and assassinating leaders of government so we can establish a puppet government. You know what I mean? The Jedi Order, like, there's zero oversight from the government. There's no like either they don't have a budget.
It's not like they ever sit in on like any like the what do you call it, the meetings, like
No,
the the
and yet they
Senate
have
meetings.
absolute power. They can do whatever they want. It's insane how much power they have in that, and like how like arrogant. If you rewatch the movie through the framework of like, okay, so you know how like everyone always complained about how like there's like tax policies and like lawmaking that goes on in those movies, but
Yeah.
if you watch it from that perspective, you're like, oh my god, like the Jedi need to go, dude. This is bad. You know, like you really like,
And then like the Jedi were kind of crazy in that third one when they were like, okay, like the Chancellor will have to give up his emergency powers like now that General Grievous has been
yeah.
killed. And they like are like we'll be the ones to like make sure he does it, as if
Yeah,
like
at any point they can just flex, like like it's basically just this like elite like a religious organization who whenever they want to can just step up and like control the government.
and like people are probably scared like when the Clone War started, because you thought like, oh, okay, they're a bunch of monks, they're kind of like they think they're higher than they actually are and all this other stuff, but then you figure out, oh, those lightsabers, they can really do damage, and
Yeah.
they're basically warriors that are just leading these millions and millions of like clones
Yeah.
into battle,
Yeah.
and at any time they could just lead some of their clones into battle. So of course, you know, some people saw Order 66 as like
A
a
savior. They were like, thank
yeah.
God we got them. And consider this. Like, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say. I was just about to go on a tangent, and it's lost. I lost it in my mind. No, it's gone. I'm no. You got to give me a second. I
Okay.
will remember it.
Okay.
Hang on. See, I got to do the hands now. I got to do the hands. Ah, damn it. I completely. I consider this, and what was I going to have you consider? I don't know. No, okay, I was going to ask more like, so as soon as the clones, which mind you, the Jedi have been building this secret army for the last 10 years without the government's knowledge or permission, right? They come out, and immediately who gets to be in charge of this army? This secret army of millions of people? The Jedi.
Yeah.
No permission from
Because
the
they didn't.
government.
Because the Jedi, like, of course, they don't know the army's being built. But it's being built. It was built by a Jedi, Sifo
Exactly.
Dyas.
Yeah.
So, like, this guy only like seeks to anger the Senate further. Then you have all these attempts on the senator's life that
Yeah.
like wants to, and it's just insane. But it is crazy that Palpatine. It's kind of like impressive that he's able to like pull all these strings
Yeah.
and like play this like giant like just like game with the Jedi.
I mean, no,
In
from a
Senate.
political perspective, though, can you imagine like if they had succeeded with assassinating Palpatine, right? Because that's an assassination, textbook. That's an assassination, right?
Yeah.
So even though he's a Sith Lord, right, and he wants to control the government, like the people and the Senate, they don't know this. They don't know what a Sith is. They don't care. They want what do they want? They want low gas prices. They want a carton of eggs to be $3. They want milk to be $3, right? These people don't care about this religious mumbo jumbo that is basically the backbone of the Star Wars story.
Yeah.
So from like a imagine that on the news, right? Like like religious organization assassinates chancellor. From a political perspective, I think that Palpatine is absolutely in the right. I'm not even gonna lie, but I think that like we know the Jedi are good because George Lucas told us they're good.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I just don't. The more I think about them, if that was going on in our civilization, I would be like, I don't like this. I don't. No diggity. I don't.
I would be scared. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
These people that like just have all they can we don't know like the difference between Jedi and Sith really.
Yeah.
Because we see a Sith, we might think it's a Jedi with a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
They can like just shock us with lightning.
Yeah.
They can move actual like physical objects.
Yeah.
And just.
And we're just supposed to trust them to not do this to civilians. Because I mean, if that was going on in the real world, they would be using that to like get us to shut up. You know what I mean? Like if you were like I'm trying to think of like a real world. All I'm saying, imagine for a moment if during the debates, if Joe Biden could have just shot electricity out of his fingers at Trump. Could you imagine?
Honestly, that'd probably be the highest viewed debate.
That would be so cool. That would be the coolest thing ever.